Looks like Ubisoft is really taking the Star Wars Outlaws update very seriously. But it also kind of contradicts, well, they said that, oh yeah, overall, like, we got really good, we got really solid reviews, even though we ended up having softer than assumed sales. Some heads are rolling over there at the big U, as after initial failure of Star Wars Outlaws, Ubisoft tags new creative director to oversee the game's future. Well, that's interesting. That's kind of like appointing a new captain to the Titanic after the iceberg was struck. Doesn't seem like a very good way to spend your resources, but then again, this is also a company that over the course of 5 years lost 90% of its market valuation, as part of their previously promised mission of bringing the widely panned title into a decently playable state. Hilarious that they need to try to bring it up after they launched the shit, and now they're trying to relaunch it in by the end of the month. I think it's the 21st or something like that. It's supposed to launch on Steam. Oh boy, those numbers are going to be fun to look at. Ubisoft has officially handed the reins of Star Wars Outlaws post-release development to a brand new creative director, but they had laid out, right, like prior to all of their rejiggered plans, like they had this whole roadmap of new content. Like you could go, oh my god, you guys, they're going to be able to go out and you're going to have a mission with Lando Calrissian. You remember Lando? And you can actually work with Jabba the Hutt, even though he's one of the heads of one of the 4 cartels that you can get deeper relationship with. You can pay extra in order to work directly for him. Strange, but oh, okay. And then there was something else that was in there, and maybe they were going to add Sabacc as a mini game. Like, okay, you had all of these big plans, but what? Now you're going to scrap all of them? Interesting. The news regarding Star Wars' latest video game outing was first broken to the public courtesy of a developer update published in the game's official website on November the 4th. Therein, Ubisoft announced that not only was the game's previous creative director Julien Guerredi no longer in charge of overseeing Outlaws' future, but also that he had been replaced in his role by Massive Entertainment's Drew Reckner. So yeah, that's right there, an internal promotion. Massive are the developers on this. Ubisoft just published this turd. I am excited to be stepping into the role of creative director on Star Wars Outlaws and to be working with the incredibly passionate team here at Massive Entertainment. You just couldn't see any of their passion on the screen when the game first launched. And their talented co-development studios around the world and at Lucasfilm's games. God, what a clunky name that is, because, you know, Lucasarts was just far too cumbersome. You need to be unburdened by what came in order to look forward to the future. I'd like to personally thank you, our community, for your positive response to the game. Who actually has positive oh right, the mainstream journalist shills. We see and love all the fan arts. There's no fan arts, comments and videos you've created around the game. Yeah, I'd imagine there's probably a super cut of some people that I'm partial to online that you guys aren't exactly holding in that same regard, that exposes just how buggy, broken, and disastrously written, performed, and conceived this is. Like, you guys screwed up on every angle, right? Like, the characters are absolutely ass if they're not paper thin. Like, nothing about it works at all. Like, it's a technical nightmare. The gameplay is so basic bitch, it actually looks at Dragon Age the Veilguard to look entertaining. And the dialogue, bro, it's written in crayon. You might as well have had the subtitles in Comic Sans for how pathetic they were. So no, there's positive response from the Access media. From the people that played this pile, the less than 1 million people that picked this up, well, even the sales figures speak for themselves. We truly hope your enjoyment, you're enjoying your journey across the Outer Rim with Kay and Nix thus far. Yeah, there's guys who played it on launch and haven't returned to it, have no intention to return to it because there's no replay value. This is supposed to be a big open world, sprawling Star Wars, the first ever open world Star Wars experience, and nobody's going back to play it. I can't pull up the Steam chart numbers because it's not on Steam yet, and Ubisoft doesn't release any of their information, but if you take a look at the other storefronts, Star Wars Outlaws is nowhere to be found. Xbox, PlayStation, it's off the list. Any recorded lists that are out there, this thing has disappeared into the ether, and it came out not but at the end of August, for Christ's sakes. It's done, it's dusted, it's cooked, and the fact that you guys are trying to drum up any sort of enthusiasm for this beleaguered release that, hey, look at this, Star Wars Outlaws and the rest of Ubisoft's day one releases are going to be coming to Steam. Isn't it wonderful when a dozen people pick this up on deep discounts if they have free keys kicking around? Because unless you're going to be leaning heavily on the modding community to make this into just a running, laughing joke, recouping any losses on the biggest marketing budget that Ubisoft has ever done, that's what Star Wars Outlaws is. We're not going to see any earnest returns. From there, yes, Reichner, yes, admitted that the game's development team had been gathering information regarding its reputation formally through our analytics, users' tests, reviews, and media feedback, our Star Wars Outlaws bug reporter, crash reports, and other mechanisms. Yeah, that's interesting, because you'd have a lot of data when it comes to crash reports and bug detectors. No, but we informally, we see your YouTube videos and Reddit, Discord, and other social media posts. Interesting. And as such, had zeroed in on the 3 key areas, and which we're looking to improve the game even further. Okay, the characters, the dialogue, and the gameplay. You got a lot of work ahead of you. The first key area of improvement to the game is combat, where we see the real opportunity to add more depth and excitement to the experience, like being able to shoot off of your speeder, being able to get different vehicles. How about carrying any of those other guns that you can just pick up, like the rocket launcher, the rifle? You can't take them with you on your speeder. It's so stupid. No, we need to focus on combat and how laughable it is that you could just immediately go in hiding if you duck into high grass, bro. Further rewarding your tactics and precision. Yeah, you got this broke-ass Deadeye mechanic that you stole whole hog from the Red Dead Redemption series. And tactics? I mean, they're non-existent. You run around with big swinging Superman punches, and the mightiest warrior to ever travel across the galaxy, Vess, is just knocking out grown-ass man and a whole lot of grown-ass women, because apparently the Empire, it's funny, right? Like, they want to have this girl power narrative, but for how incompetent they are and how disproportionately female they are, I don't really think that you're sending the message that you want to. The first key area, our second key area, that's a little bit different than the first, is stealth, yes, which is not only about improving the readability and consistency of enemy detection. Yeah, how the cameras don't even work, that's interesting too. Oh, I triggered the don't worry, it's fine. But also providing choice and how to approach each encounter, right, instead of just, walking up to the side of them, because if this is, okay, if my microphone is facing straight forward, this is the way that stealth works. If I come in just like this, nobody's going to notice me. If I'm just off like 5 degrees behind them, I'm going to be totally and completely fine, that I can just knock you out and then away we go. That's how the stealth currently works. Not exactly a winner you guys have on your hands, but it's just a couple of tweaks that we need to make. Finally, our third key area of focus is centered around the character controls. Yeah, so this is all about the gameplay and the fact that it's completely borked. Even though at the end of the day, your fundamental product is rotten to the core. But yes, focused around the character controls, which means improving the readability of cover, increasing the responsiveness of climbing and crouching, and generally improving the consistency of the controls overall so you don't fall through the floor. Drawing his forward-looking roadmap to a close, Reichner ultimately asserted, "We will provide more specific details about the changes to the areas and more in the upcoming weeks as we provide further updates to you. All of this will culminate in the release of Title Update 1.4, which will release November 21st, alongside the Steam launch of our first story pack, Star Wars Outlaws Wild Card." Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the Lando mission where you can go place the Bach with Lando. Haven't you always wanted to do that? As of writing, it's currently unknown as to why the aforementioned Garrity is no longer serving as Outlaws creative director. I got an answer to that. He did a shit job. He got fired, which is kind of unique for Ubisoft. To this end, his departure is particularly curious, given how, as readers may remember, Garrity previously and publicly voiced a very optimistic outlook regarding the game's future. But yeah, Metacritic 76, which is way too generous, and that's, I guess, on the critic side of things, of course, and a 5.4 user score, which right now, okay, just to compare and contrast that, which with a somehow more functional but equally as terribly written game in Dragon Age the Veilguard, it's in the mid-80s when it comes to the critics, and it's at least at the last check, the last time that I did a video on it, 3.9, which I think is it's still a little bit too generous, but a 5.4 for Outlaws, bro, I've seen that gameplay. I've seen it played from multiple different perspectives, and that shit just doesn't work. And it's bad even when it does. So Ubisoft know it has a dud on its hands, and they're trying to polish this as best as possible to try to get a couple of shekels there on the 21st. But I think people already have their minds made up about this nonsense. And yeah, unless it's going to be cheap as chips and they can meme on it for a little while, Star Wars Outlaws is about as dead as Disney Star Wars. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.